Alright, welcome back to the channel, kid family. We got another gloomy day out here. It probably matches my attitude right now because you guys already know personal issues going on and stuff in my life. But we're gonna keep grinding here. I got a day off. We've been riding around in the Civic, beating on it pretty hard, and it's not perfect. There are a couple issues that I want to address to you guys that I experienced, so stay tuned for that video. We're also going to be changing the spark plugs in this video, guys. We're gapping the spark plugs a little tighter, right? We got a brand new set, and I'll talk to you guys about that. We're gapping them. They're two-step Colder spark plugs. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons of running Colder spark plugs and tightening a gap. So a lot of information on this content here, and just stay tuned for all that good stuff. Two problems, guys. Two problems. If you're running a automatic transmission, the mass airflow sensor on the automatic transmissions play a big role in somehow calculating how the transmission is shifting. So as you guys can see, this sensor right here is a intake air temperature sensor as well as airflow sensor. So as that air is passing through the charge pipes here, it's calculating how much air is going into the engine, and based on that calculation from the sensor, the transmission uses that airflow number and correlates it to the shift and how it shifts. Now, when I first uploaded the base map, it shifted like crap. It was very rough, almost like a dual clutch when you just slam it into a gear. That's how it was shifting. I played around with the mass airflow flow numbers. I decreased them to like factory naturally aspirated numbers, and the car shifts like normal again. But it shifts like normal when you're cruising in vacuum and off of boost. Once you get into a little bit of boost, it's getting a little rougher. And if you try to shift this car keeping it in drive or like D3 flat out, it's gonna suck. And that's only for that automatic transmission, guys. If you're running a manual transmission for these cars, it doesn't matter. You're just reading the intake air temperatures. If you're on a manual, there's nothing else using that information. I'm still playing around with the airflow numbers just to see how the car likes the shifting points, but essentially I'm shifting it like this. I'll rip it in first gear, redline it, lay off the throttle, pop it into 2, get back on the throttle. You do lose a little bit of momentum shifting that way on an automatic, but there's no hiccups, there's no glitches. It jumps into gear and you got so much low end power and torque, it's just gonna pull you right out. So that's good. You don't really feel like you're losing a whole lot because of the turbocharger, but it still sucks, and I wish I can just floor it in D just to get the momentum rolling. But yeah, if you're boosting and you're on D and you're accelerating, as it's shifting, I noticed on the logs, the boost pressure every shift, the boost pressure spikes by about 1.5 psi as well. So it doesn't like the extra spike in psi, because again, it's just more airflow that's confusing the mass airflow sensor. So that's one of the problems, guys. The second problem that I'm experiencing, and this one's a kind of a bummer, is, again, let's talk about this. The second problem is also with the mass airflow sensor. So this mass airflow sensor charge pipe right here is actually smaller diameter than our factory charge pipe in our factory air boxes. So naturally it's going to make this sensor read higher voltage. It reads 0 to 5 volts, and because of having a smaller diameter piping, it's going to increase the voltage here because of more velocity going through the charge pipe. And once your computer sees that you're running 5 volts for a certain amount of time, let's say like 3 to 4 seconds, it'll trigger a P0103 code, and that's saying that the mass airflow sensor is out of circuit range, and then they'll go into limp mode after that. Now, I've done some logs, I've done a lot of research, and on Honda, I'm getting 5 volts roughly at around 5,500 RPMs. Now in first gear, most of second, it's not a problem because it's not going to stay in that 5 volt period for, you know, those 4 or 5 seconds or whatever, and it won't trigger it. But in like a third gear pull, you guys will see that it will trigger because it'll take longer to rev up the car, and you'll trigger that check engine light. And I'll show you guys a video I have somewhere. I recorded on my phone trying to do a 3rd gear pull, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So naturally, what you want to do to improve this is you want to get a bigger mass airflow sensor housing. Now, the bigger the housing, it's gonna read less airflow on the mass airflow sensor, just because the air has more room to go through it and the velocity is discharging a bigger area. But on our situation here, it's really close, and what I'm really concerned about is I have another charge pipe right underneath this coupler, and that charge pipe is smaller than the mass airflow sensor housing, and I got it right up against the mass airflow sensor. So I'm thinking about cutting that pipe underneath, backing it up, and that might help free up some room for the airflow to go around. Now, if you're running a manual transmission car, again, at that point you could probably just disable the mass airflow sensor reading completely, and you shouldn't have this problem either going out of range on the voltage. The reason I'm going out of range is because I'm still using the mass airflow sensor for the automatic transmission. But if you're a manual and you don't need it for the transmission, I'm pretty sure you don't need it for any fueling either. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the charge pipe out, take that coupler off, and then cut some of that pipe back up that inner plate, and I'll show you guys once I'm in there. Alright guys, so here's one of the problems that I had that I think can improve it. So I had this little piece of pipe right in here with the couplers inside, but what was going on is I had this pipe, really, since it's smaller, going inside the housing right there, right next to the mass airflow sensor. So it was pushing, like, as you can see, it was like right there. So it was increasing the velocity because I was going all up against that mass airflow sensor. So I'm going to cut some of this pipe here so I can mock it up right around there, and therefore I'm hoping it's reading a bigger number here from the diameter of the mass airflow sensor housing, and hopefully that helps a little bit. So let's go ahead, cut some of this pipe off, measure, make the adjustments, and then reinstall it. I swear, always an issue, man. Alright, a few cuts later, you can see the pipe is much shorter. It's not sticking into my mass airflow sensor housing. So once I put the coupler on, you see the actual air has a lot more places to go and expand into this pipe. So that should at least buy me a little bit of airflow before the check engine light triggers. I'm hoping, again, I don't have to upgrade this. I'm gonna actually measure the size of that right now and just see what the size of that is. And the size of that is 2.25 inches, just about. And I believe the factory one was 2.4 inches. So look at the factory intake box here. Definitely bigger, although I feel like the factory box, the inlet and outlet are actually different. I actually feel like this is smaller here. Yeah, see, it is smaller on this end, which is really ironic. It's just about a tiny bit more than 2 1/4. Yeah, so it's kind of weird. The outlet, which doesn't really matter since it's already past the sensor, is about, 2 1/2. And then the inlet is actually smaller, just about the same as the one on the vehicle right now, about 2 1/4. small little modification we just made for the intake. Again, it's just fine-tuning stuff. You can see this is hollow inside. There's no metal piping going through it now, so that air is going to expand into a bigger diameter, and I'm hoping that little advancement here maybe lets us rev it out a little bit more. I'm going to show you on Honda right now the chart at what point I'm reaching 5 volts on the mass airflow sensor, and if you can look, it's probably around that 5500 RPM range. And then once we drive it right now and do some logs and do some data analytics, we'll see if that 5 volt range is hitting a little higher. Ideally, I'd like to hit around 6,000, if not 6.5. That way I don't have to have that P0103 issue whatsoever, and the car can just rev out all the time. Because you don't want to be racing somebody, hit a dang check engine light, go into limp mode, and then you can't even race. You gotta pull over, reset the check engine light in order to clear that code and the limp mode, which is kind of annoying. One improvement done. Now, this might be a long video right now, but we're changing the spark plugs too. So we'll see. Maybe this is gonna be on the next video, or it might be on this video. We'll see. But if not, catch everyone on the next video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, watch me on Instagram as well. God bless. Peace. Hear the little backfire? But that beep, the beep was when I'm getting close to that 5 volts, I get a beep.
Laptop beep?
Yeah, the laptop beep. So if I'm getting close to that 5 volt range, right, where it's gonna start maxing out, it warns me. So I have like maybe 5 seconds or so, and then it'll fucking throw a check engine light. Which, you know, most of the time it won't, unless I'm really fucking redlining the fuck out of it for some time. But I wonder what my beep is at. Can you double click on this one? The AFM, double click on that. And then on the bottom, so it's at 4.9, change it to 5. Yeah, and then do okay again. Just pump that sucker a little bit this way. Yeah, so now at 5 you hear that little beep. So that way it kind of gives me an idea of how long I have before it triggers the engine, check engine. But it's crazy. So my temperature is 93 degrees right now. You'll see, but after like we do this pull, this thing's gonna go to like 115.
That's it? Only 10 degrees?
Or more probably, you'll see. All these cars here. I accidentally popped it in D3 instead of D2, that's why I was like, just let off. Little backfires are nice though. Oh, it didn't really go up much, huh? Unless it cooled off already. Yeah, I ended up adding more fuel in the top end. See, now it's still subtracting a little bit. I added like 2% on the top end because just to be extra safe. But I think it's once I start revving it out, get the exhaust hot, and that's when it'll start popping because of all the extra fuel. And it doesn't always pop. But see, that was perfect because it started beeping 5 volts right at redline. You saw that? Like I was almost redline. I redlined that one. I let it redline. So I think that helped. Now the real test would be in 3rd gear. You know, when it takes longer to rev out. That's when the real test would show. But that seems pretty good right there. Sounds good as fuck, right?
Yeah, it sounds nice.
if I let go of the throttle really soft, there's no blow-off valve noise. It's only when there's only a big pressure change between like boost and vacuum, that's when you see it, you know what I mean? But otherwise, it's just chill.
Sorry bro, we don't have money. We just wasted it all on a turbo.
Exactly.
This motherfucker.
I think
Left turn from the right lane.
I know. I think highway's packed though. It's definitely more torque here though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably between 3.5 to 5.5 is the sweet spot here. See, I mean, I would rev the fuck out of it now. So that's definitely, I think that did help a little bit. Was your fucking Mazda Speed 3 blow-off valve vented to atmosphere too, or was it? It wasn't.
Well, no,
the factory one was recirculating, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if that messed up your some of the tuning aspect of it too. 4.9 volts. That was good though. That was 4.9 volts. So
take me home, dude. Fuck this.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I'm trying to live another day.
We're gonna go back. No, but I think it's solid now.
This thing's too fast.
Alright guys, here we are with the results. I just want to show you the difference that mass airflow housing adjustment made for my tuning. Here is voltage right over here. We got 5 volts, and here on the bottom we have RPM. So you can see it's starting to reach that 5 volt area right around 5750, 5800, right around there. Now if you leave it in there for too long, it's going to trigger that check engine light. And let's check out the difference after the adjustment. This is my next test drive here after the adjustment. Not as many wide open throttle pulls, but you can see right over here it's starting to go into 5 volt range, which is right around 6500. Hell, even if it goes in here 6250, we're already in a much better range than what we were before. So hopefully no more check engine lights, no more PO103s, no more limp mode.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true, but the world is pretty cold. You might need a sweater too. I'ma put a ride on ya. Kid from California, trying to make it in life. In school they never taught ya.